Good morning, Morai v'Rabotai, Beruchim Habayim. We are continuing on Masechet Succah. We are on Daf Kaf Chet, Amud Aleph. We really did the Mishnah quickly at the end of last Shiur. We're up to the Gemara, but we're going to just go back to point out a thing or two on the Mishnah before we start the Gemara. Today's Amud is being learned as a Zchut Refuah Shelema for Michael ben Nahid, that should have Refuah Shelema for Rachel Simcha bat Nahid, that should have full recovery, Refuah Shelema Be'ezrat Hashem. Amen. Today's Amud is also being dedicated for the ultimate Hatzlacha of Mishpachat Shem, Mishpachat Kohen, Shachat Dayan, and have dedicated graciously this month's learnings of the community. It should be an ultimate zchut for all the Mishpachot Be'ezrat Hashem. Amen. So we started the Mishnah, which contains really three different messages. One is the element of Machloket Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai. We spoke about this earlier on, if you remember, in Daf Gimal, Daf Zayin of our Masechta, that really there are two parallel Machlokot, two differences in the Shita of Bet Hillel versus Bet Shammai. One is by Sukkah Ktana, that was one of the only places, says the Tosafot, that we paskin actually like Bet Shammai versus Bet Hillel, whether or not you need 6 by 6 minimum, which is the Shita of Bet Hillel, Rosho verubo. So 6 tfachim by 6 tfachim, according to Bet Hillel, would be the minimum shiur of Sukkah, or maybe 7 by 7 like the Shita of Bet Shammai, which also includes a small little table or sandwich that you're holding. It's Rosho, the Rubo, the Shulchano, and the Psak is like Bet Shammai. But the other element of Machloket, which is not so clear who the halacha is like, is the direct mashma'ut of our Mishnah, at someone that's sitting in a sukkah, not a small sukkah, a large sukkah, but his body is in the sukkah, but his shulchan, his table, is extended outside the sukkah, is under the awning, is inside the house, and he's eating. The concern is perhaps that he's going to be nimshach. A person is always drawn after food, so maybe you're going to be nimshach after the shulchan and end up eating outside the sukkah. So that's machloket Bet Hillel. Bet Shammai, Bet Hillel holds that it is fine. Bet Shammai holds that if you did this, of him amru lo, the story in the Mishnah, that if this is what you did, lo kiyamta mitzvat sukkah miyamecha, you've never done mitzvat sukkah, which means that they hold you're not yotze the rabbanan, the oraita. We mentioned that before. So that's the first element of the Mishnah that we discuss. The second and third is what we're going to spend time on today, which is the halacha of nashim v'ktanim. The Mishnah says nashim avadim v'ktanim pturim min sukkah. Women are patur from sukkah. Avadim are patur. Ktanim, the minors, are patur from the sukkah. Now the Gemara asks, how do you know that nashim are patur from the sukkah? How do you know that they're absolved from the mitzvah of sukkah? And the Gemara says, because it is a directly mentioned item in the pasuk. The pasuk that we all know says, Chag HaSukkot ta'aseh shivat yamim. Kol ha'ezrach beYisrael yeshevu b'Sukkot. All of the residents, Jewish residents, should sit in the sukkah. So what's the meaning of ha'ezrach? Says the Gemara, ezrach ze ezrach. When it would say ezrach, resident, would mean, well, any resident. When it would say ha-ezrach, the ezrach, is coming to tell you le'otziyat hanashim, is excluding the woman, because it says the resident, the specific residents, not everybody. Ezrach would be, everybody, all of the residents, men, women, old, young, everyone. Ha-ezrach is coming to exclude. Says the Gemara, Kol lerabot et haktanim. And when it says Kol ha-ezrach, is coming to add the Ktanim are also chayav besukkah, which, it's of course something that raises our eyebrows. We just mentioned a moment ago in the Mishnah that Ktanim are patur from the sukkah. So we have to come back to this, and we will come back to this, kol lerabot Ktanim, later on in the Gemara. So just freeze that for a moment. We're going to deal first with the word ezrach, ha-ezrach. Says the Gemara, Amar Mor, ha-ezrach lo tzii et hanashim. When you say that ha-ezrach is coming to exclude the woman, lememra de ezrach ben nashim ben gavri mashma. You want to suggest that if the pasuk would have said just ezrach, would mean any resident of the land, man or woman, and says the Gemara, really, I will bring you a proof, a direct proof, from a different Braita that says black on white that ezrach means only men, and ha-ezrach would come to add the woman, which means exactly the opposite. You telling me ezrach means everybody, ha-ezrach means only the men. We have a clear Braita that says exactly the opposite. That ezrach means only the men, and ha-ezrach is coming to add the woman. And that is by the halachot of Ta'anit of Yom Kippurim. Says the Gemara, V'atanya, we learned in a Braita directly, ha-ezrach l'rabot et hanashim. That when the pasuk says ha-ezrach, is coming to tell you man or woman. It says in the pasuk, V'hayta lachem lechukat olam b'chodesh hashvi'i. It should be an eternal law on the 7th month, which is Tishrei. Be'asor lachodesh, in the 10th day. Ta'anu et nafshotechem, you shall suffer your souls. Ve'chol melacha lo tasu. Who should not do any melacha? Ha-ezrach ve'ager agar betochechem. Ha-ezrach. And says the Braita on that pasuk, ha-ezrach, the hey is coming to, the Ritba writes, hey usually, most of the time, is an addition. Is coming l'rabot. So, you understand, you say, ha-ezrach is the ezrach coming lema, but most of the time, the hey is coming to add. And indeed, the Braita writes, when it comes to the fast of Yom Kippurim, that when it tells you, kol ha-ezrach, or ha-ezrach hager agar betochechem, ha-ezrach is coming to say, ezrach would be men, ha-ezrach is also women, that have to keep the same halacha of Yom Kippurim. L'rabot et hanashim ha-ezrachiyot shchayavot be'inui. They are also obligated to the fast of Yom Kippurim. So says the Gemara, Alma, you see from here, ezrach gavri mashma. That if I would only say ezrach, the residents, ezrach means only men. So says the Gemara, so you're telling me in Halchot Sukkah that ezrach would mean everyone. You're telling me in Halachot of Yom Kippur ezrach would mean only men. That is like a head-on collision. It's a stira. It's a direct stira. And there's no reconciliation for this. There isn't. This is like a black and white stira. And the Gemara says, Amar Rabba, Hilchetaninu, Vasminchur Rabbanan Akerai. These are really, one of them is a Halacha Moshe Misinai. You're correct, it's a stira. We have to explain why the psukim are mentioned and explained like this. But the core elements you have to understand, says the Gemara, is that one of these two is Halacha Moshe Misinai. One of them we learn from the pasuk, from the word Ha-ezrach. But the other one is Halacha Moshe Misinai. That's why it's not a stira. The Gemara says, wait a second, that's very strange, right? Hekera vehilcheta. First of all, which one is Halacha Moshe Misinai? Which one is a pasuk? You have to explain to me when you tell me, one of them is Halacha Moshe. Which one is Halacha Moshe Misinai? Right? And then you have to explain another thing. But two, and if it is, after you explain which one is Halacha Moshe Misinai, Kra Lamali. Why do you have to write the Ezrach then? Right? Halacha Lamali. The Gemara says, wait 1 second, can we pause this whole discussion for a moment? Let's imagine we didn't have a Mishnah and a Gemara in Masechet Sukkah Daf Kafchet Amud Aleph. I would ask a regular 5-year-old that just learned the Psukim and knows the general rules of how we deal with mitzvot, without Halacha Moshe Mishnah and without any Psukim. I would ask a regular person, woman, mitzvat Sukkah, there should be Hayav or there should be Patur? What would they say? Well, Sukkah is mitzvat aseh, shazman grama, and we have a shas-wide halacha that call mitzvat aseh, shazman grama, nashim pturot. Any mitzvah that's a positive mitzvah, and it's time-bound, nashim are patur. So I would know, without a pasuk and without the halacha that women should be patur from Sukkah. So why do I need a Mishnah here, learning it from Ha'ezrach, Rabbot, or Halacha? Why do I need that? It's a general rule. Also by Yom Kippur, why do I need you to tell me that Nashim are chayav to fast for Yom Kippur? That also I would know from a Shas-wide concept, as the Gemara is going to explain. Let's read. Says the Gemara, V'tu kra lamali, why do I need a halacha? Why do I need a pasuk? I don't need any of them. Sukkah mitzvah aseh shazman grama. Sukkah is mitzvah aseh shazman grama. V'chol mitzvah aseh shazman grama. Nashim pturot. Women should be absolved from it because it's a time-bound positive mitzvah. Yom Kippurim mid Rav Yehuda amar Rav Nafka. And the fact that women should be chayav to fast the Ta'anit of Yom Kippur, I should know also not from Halacha Moshe Sinai, not from a pasuk, but from a drasha of Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. The Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, last line. V'chen Tana de Rabbi Yishmael. This is really from the Bet Midrash of Rabbi Yishmael, the Tanaim. Amar Kra, the pasuk says, Ish o Isha. This is a Shas-wide concept. Men or women, says the pasuk. Doesn't make a difference. And the pasuk is talking about not Yom Kippurim, but a general concept. Says the pasuk, and I'm reading from the side over here. Daber el bnei Yisrael, ish o isha, ki yasu mikol chatot ha'adam lim'ol ma'al b'Hashem, a man or a woman that does any of the negative commandments, transgresses one of those isurim lim'ol ma'al b'Hashem, ve'ashma nefesh. That soul has sinned and is guilty. So it says, Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav, darshaning this pasuk, Heshva hakatuv isha leish lekol onashin shebatorah. That the pasuk is equating a woman to a man in all of the punishments, all the negatives of the Torah. All the don't do's, the women are equal to the men. The Torah may give them a free pass for some of the mitzvot aseh shazman grama, because the women are busy taking care of a house, taking care of their household, husband, children, and they can't be bound as much as a regular person is bound to the mitzvot aseh. So we understand, but all the don't do's, heshva katuv, the isha leish lekol onashin shebatorah, all of the punishments, they are equal. So says the Gemara, Amar Abaye says, so therefore, says basically Rava, I would have known that a woman is patur, Halita Yom Kippur is a lav, is isur karet. Of course I would know that the woman should be chayav. Abaye says even a more epic, these are like epic things. This is like, Rava says, this is a Shas concept. Everywhere, kol Torah kula, women are chayav to keep all the don't do's. We know it from a different pasuk. You want to bring a pasuk or a halacha Moshe Sinai in the pasuk of the fast? I know it without that pasuk. It's a kol Torah kula. Across the entire Torah, this concept exists. So that is the argument that the Gemara gives first, and now Abaye is going to give a different argument. So it says, this was Rabbah, and now Abaye. Abaye says, Le'olam Sukkah hilchita. Sukkah says no. Sukkah is really a halacha. Veistrich. Now he's answering the question. Says Abaye, really Sukkah is halacha, which means let's go through what that would mean for us. Sukkah hilchita means Sukkah is the one that's halacha Moshe Misinai. So we're not darshaning the ezrach ha-ezrach. In other words, Abaye is suggesting that really ezrach means only women, and ha-ezrach is coming to be marbe, like the Ritva says, the majority of Torah, the Ehe, is coming to add, right? So really, ezrach means only men, and ha-ezrach is coming to add the woman, and that is for Yom Kippur. We learn it from the pasuk of ha-ezrach v'hager agar betochechem. We learn ezrach would mean men. Ha-ezrach is coming to say women also are chayav to fast on Yom Kippur. And Sukkah, we know it from Halacha Moshe Misinai, not from the pasuk. We know from Halacha Moshe Misinai that a woman is patur from sitting in the sukkah. Now we have to speak about the two questions that the Gemara posed. A, why do I need Halacha Moshe Misinai? It should be learned from the concept that we know across the board that women are patur from time-bound mitzvot. Why do you need the Halacha Moshe Misinai? And also, how do you deal now with the pasuk that says ha-ezrach? If you're telling me that usually ha-ezrach adds woman, so why do you say ha-ezrach by sukkah? I thought hey adds the woman by ezrach. So why do you say ha-ezrach? Indeed, if women are patur from halacha Moshe Misinai, don't say ha-ezrach. So we have two problems now to deal with. The Gemara says, I'll answer you. Abaye says, the reason is, we need it. We need the halacha of Moshe Misinai. Because sal kadata chamina, I would have thought, if you didn't give me a halacha Moshe Misinai, if Moshe would not come and say, Hashem said women should not sit in the sukkah, do not have to sit in the sukkah, not should not, do not have to sit in the sukkah, I would have said a woman should be hayav to sit in the sukkah, unlike all the other mitzvot in the Torah. Yes, I understand that across the board, women are patur from time-bound mitzvot, but this is different, I would have said. You know why this is different? Because we all know already by now, teshvu, ke'en, taduru, it says, basukot teshvu shivat yamim, we touched already before, teshvu, yeshiva means living. Live in the sukkah. How do you live? As a man. A person lives with their family, and family being majorly your wife. A family could not have children because they got married and left, or they're young still, or they don't have children yet, but a family is a husband and wife. So just like in your house you live with your wife, I would have said when the Torah says Sukkot Teshvu means with your wife. Without your wife, actually the truth of the matter is, there are those who try to explain why some of the Europeans in the cold northern Europe did not sleep in the sukkah. And one of the explanations that they give is because the woman could not really sleep in the sukkah. It's so difficult, it's freezing cold and so on. But putting all that aside, the Gemara says, I would have thought that your wife should be able to live in the sukkah with you, and that would obligate the woman just like men because of family. Teshvu ken taduru. Teshvu ken taduru, madira ish ve'ishto, af sukkah ish ve'ishto. I would have thought that your wife should be obligated to sleep in the sukkah, to live in the sukkah, because it's teshvu ken taduru, a family life. Kamash malan. Therefore, you could not have learned it from the general rule across Shas that women are patur from the time-bound mitzvot. You needed a halacha Moshe Misinai to say, this one also you're patur. Don't think that teshvu ken taduru should obligate women. Women are absolved from this mitzvah even by mitzvah sukkah. So now the Gemara says, that is Abaye. Rava says, yet another epic Shas-wide Gezerah Shavah known, the Tetvav that we spoke about, probably the most known, famous Gezerah Shavah across the whole Shas is the comparison between 15th of Tishrei and 15th of Nisan, comparing the first night of Sukkot with first night of Pesach. Last time we had this was the obligation of eating a kazayit or kabetzah of bread on the first night of Sukkot in the Sukkah. Whereas the entire rest of Chag HaSukkot, you don't have to eat Seudah. If you want to eat Seudah, you have to be in the Sukkah, but you don't have to eat it. But the first night of Chag HaSukkot, you're obligated. How do I know? Because of the Gezerah Shavah Tetvav from Pesach. Right? Ba'erev tochlu matzot. There it says in the first night of Pesach, you have to eat matzah. And we learned that you have to eat bread on the first night of, as the Gemara says over here, says Rava, I would have compared Chag HaSukkot with Chag HaPesach because we have this comparison of Tetvav. Now, the first night of Chag HaPesach, are women chayav to eat kazayit or kabetzah of matzah in on the first night of Pesach? Absolutely yes. It's mitzvah hazat shasman grama. It's a time, but no, we learn it from a pasuk. We learn that don't eat chametz shivat yamim tochal matzot. Right? The pasuk says, don't eat chametz 7 days, eat matzah. And the Gemara in Pesachim learns that whoever can't eat chametz is chayav to eat matzah. The pasuk is comparing the don't eat chametz to eat matzah. So therefore we know from the pasuk that the woman, every woman, is obligated to eat a kabetzah of matzah, a minimum of a kazayit of matzah, the night of Pesach. Right? That we learn from the pasuk. Now that I know that women are chayav to eat matzah on Leil Pesach, I should learn from Tetvav, from the famous Gezerah Shavah comparing Sukkah to Pesach, that women should be obligated to eat a kabetzah or a kazayit minimum of bread in the Sukkah on the first night of Sukkot. It's like logic, math, it's basic arithmetics. You go through the thing, it should come out like. Rava says that is the reason that you need Halakha Moshe Misinai. Short of Halakha Moshe Misinai, because of these two drashot, I will put the two together, right? A equals B and B equals C, so therefore A equals C. And I would say women should be hayav to sit and eat bread in the first night of Sukkot in Sukkah, which would indicate that they're hayav v'Sukkah. Therefore, you need an extra halakha Moshe Misinai to say, no. Woman comes to Pesach, yes, they're hayav. Comes to Sukkot, they're absolved from living in the Sukkah. Amazing, right?
You said living in the Sukkah, you said eating bread in the Sukkah.
It's the same thing. You learn it from the same pasuk. Says the Gemara, just reading it through, Rava Amar Istri, we would have learned from the Gezerah Shavah, Chamishasar, aka Tetvav. So says the Gemara, Mechak HaMatzot, Male ala nashim chayavot. Just like by Chag HaMatzot, nashim are chayav to eat matzah on first night of Pesach, Avkad nashim chayavot. Here also they should be chayav to dwell in the sukkah and to eat the bread the first night, and so on and so forth. Kamash malan. Therefore, I need a halakha Moshe Misinai when it comes to Sukkot that nashim, women, are absolved. Amazing. Now that answers the first question. Remember, we had two questions. A, why do you need halakha Moshe Misinai? B, however it is that you explain that, why do you say ha'ezrach? You just told me ezrach, ha'ezrach is coming to add women. So why do you say ha'ezrach by Sukkot, which we know women are patur? So what is ha'ezrach then? Says the Gemara, fine. Now that you proved to me that you need halakha Moshe Misinai, kra lamali. Why do you say ha'ezrach? So says the Gemara, l'rabot et hagerim. Yes, the hey hayediyah, as the Ritva explains, comes to add. But here is coming to add the gerim. Right? That a ger also is chai, because you would have thought the pasuk says, Kol ha'ezrach be'Yisrael yeshvu basukot. Only be'Yisrael Yeshua Sukkot. So therefore, you need to say Gerim as well. The Aruch HaShulchan and others, others, they are very busy explaining why. So don't say this and don't say that. Why do you need to say Be'Yisrael? Then you need Kol HaEzrach. That is for a more deep conversation. But the Gemara says, because it says Be'Yisrael, I would have thought maybe Gerim should not be a part of it. And HaEzrach, that Hey HaYediyah is coming to add Afilu Gerim. Says the Gemara, Sal Kadata Chamina HaEzrach Be'Yisrael. When it says HaEzrach Be'Yisrael, Amar Rachmana Velo Et HaGerim, and not the Gerim, Ka Mashmalan. Therefore, you need the Hey to add HaEzrach to add even the Gerim. So then the Gemara says, fine, that explains Sukkah. You remember we had this question by both. We also said that without any halacha Moshe Sinai or pasuk, when it comes to Yom Kippurim, if I would ask any yeshiva student, Yom Kippurim Ta'anit, women should be chayav or patur, they would say you should be chayav. Why? Because of a Kol Torah Kula across the board concept, that women are compared to men with all the onashim, with regard to all the onashim of the Torah, all the don't do's of the Torah. That is a drasha of Rav Yehuda Amar Rav across Shas. Forget about Yom Kippurim. It's across Shas that women are compared and equated with men when it comes to all the don't do's, all the onashim. So why do you need the halacha Moshe Sinai or pasuk in this case? Why do you need to say ha'ezrach ve'ager agar betochechem to add woman? Why would I think that women should be patur? Must be that there is a reason that I would have thought in this specific case of Yom Kippurim, women should be patur from the fast. So the Gemara now is going to explain that. Yom Kippurim, says the Gemara, Mid Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Nafka. We should know it from the drasha of Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Gemara says no. Lo nitzrecha ela letosefet inui. We only need it for tosefet inui. Every two lines in this daf is like another Shas concept, right? So here it is, tosefet Yom Kippurim, another concept. Right? In Yom Kippurim, just like tosefet Shabbat, you must add from Chol to Kodesh. You can't wait until the moment of Shkia on Shabbat. You must add, the Ramban says at least 5 minutes. Right? So this whole 18 minutes that you have for lighting the candles, it doesn't mean that some people say, I still have 18 minutes. No, you don't. You have to add Michol El HaKodesh at least 5 minutes. Right? At least something substantial, something chashuv. It's a mitzvah of Tosefet Shabbat. Now, is that the Rabbanan? Is that maybe Deoraita? Maybe the concept is Deoraita, as the Briskers would say it, but the Halacha is the Rabbanan. Fine. But Tosefet Yom Kippurim, according to most, it is Deoraita. You have to add from the 9th day of Tishrei to the 10th and start Yom Kippurim early. How do you start Yom Kippurim early? Well, with all of the 5 Inuim, but majorly because also the 5, parenthetically, not all of them are agreeable with all the poskim that are Deoraita, but certainly eating and drinking is Deoraita, that's for sure, right? So when we talk about adding to the Inui of Yom Kippurim, adding Michol El HaKodesh would mean directly that you have to add and start the Ta'anit, the Inui, earlier than the sundown. That's Tosefet Yom Kippurim. Now, Tosefet Yom Kippurim is not Chayav Karet. In other words, if a person ate until the last moment of Shkia was eating, right? So because this is like, this panic that people think the extra, 2 grams of thing that you're going to eat the last second is going to make a difference, as if, this is like human psychology, right? So that is not, if you did that, you're not a Chayav Karet. Tosefet Yom Kippurim does not have Chiyuv Karet, right? It does not have, it's maybe not a lav even, the Gemara says, it's Asur Deoraita, but it's not a lav or a Karet, right? So says the Gemara, listen well, this is a little technical, says the Gemara, Lo nisrecha ela letosefet inui, sal kadat chamina. I would have thought, ho'ilu mi'et rachmana letosefet inui me'onesh u'me'azhara, that Tosefet Inui is excluded from the punishment of karet and even from being a lav. It's not a lav, and it's not karet. So it's Isur Doraita, but it's not a lav. There is such a concept. So because of that, I would have thought, oh, well, maybe that takes it away from women and men being compared together. Maybe women are not included in that part of the Azhara, and therefore we need a pasuk to say, Ha'ezrach l'rabot hanashim, that even women would be obligated in Tosefet Inui of Yom Kippurim. They also have to stop a little bit before, right? So says the Gemara, Kamash Malan. Now, by the way, we're out of time anyways, and we're by 2 dots, but parenthetically, again, the Shulchan Aruch talks about this in the halachot of Erev Yom Kippur, that a person that sees women who are, apparently this was a problem, that women were in a state of panic right before Yom Kippur, trying to eat and drink as much as possible, and the question is, they're over on the mitzvah of Tosefet Inui of Yom Kippurim. Do you have the same boundaries of the mitzvah of Tochacha that you have to stop them? You have to go tell them and yell at them and or nicely say it, and then if they don't listen, then you yell. That the mitzvah of Tochacha includes that you say it until the person beats you up. Like, you have to say it and say it and say it until the person either gives in or it curses you out or it beats you up. That's machloket. You have to get cursed or beaten, right? But the Shechakta says, that the Maran Chida talks about this, that perhaps you don't have that obligation when the item is not clearly mentioned directly, black and white in the Chumash. Like over here, that we learn it from a drasha, but it's not mentioned directly in the Chumash. This mitzvah of Tosefet Yom Kippurim, Tosefet Inui of Yom Kippurim, and Bezat Hashem will continue the next Gemara in the next year. Hazaku Baruch.